In this, I will explain the demilitarized zones. In earlier lectures, I have discussed the various security systems such as firewalls, virtual private network, and the introduction to the intrusion detection prevention systems and its categories. Now, one more aspect in the network setup for strengthening the network and according to the defense in depth, that is as a layered defenses, is a demilitarized zone. So a demilitarized zone is a process of setting up a semi-secure network segment that houses all publicly available resources. Basically, it is a military term. Demilitarized zone is a military term. Whenever this demilitarized zone, this DMZ has been listened, so people usually they will come to know the demilitarized zone available between the North Korea and South Korea. Usually, this demilitarized zone will be available between any country. That means it's a buffered zone. It's a buffered zone. Okay, for some kilometers between the borders of one country to other country, there will be a buffered zone will be there. That is not belongs to anyone. That is not belongs to anyone. So these people can go there and also can come back, but they cannot claim that this is our land. That is what is called demilitarized zone. So in the networking also, we are going to place the demilitarized zone. Especially in the demilitarized zone, we'll place the publicly accessible resources that are not private to any of either to the public resources, either to the outsiders or insiders, but only the publicly or commonly available resources, accessible resources will be placed in the DMZ. DMZ can house various different resources that both public users and the trusted network users, that means both the internal and external users, can have access to. These can include webmail, web servers, email servers, FTP servers, DNS, voice over internet protocol, virtual private networks, and proxy servers. These are the publicly accessible resources that can be placed under DMZ. So if you look at the diagram here, which was placed here, this diagram, if you look at internet, from internet you will get a router. It is connected to a router. From router, a firewall is set up, and from firewall, switching router and all. And from firewall, there is a demilitarized zone. DMZ network is there. So this DMZ network will be consisting of the public resources, and this switch is configured with the local area network. Now assume that the internet, from internet you will get a public address. Whenever you get a public address, then at this router level, you need to maintain a network segment with a internal network address, where in case of here switch is connected to a local area network, which is also an internal network. Assume that this is public address. Public address means around 202.201. something, that IP address range is coming into the system or into the network. So now this router has to convert that IP and has to process to the or convert to the local IP addresses. Either it may be 192 series or 172 series or 198, 172 or 10 series, whatever the series it may be used in the internal computer. Whenever you place a web server, obviously you will place a web server at your organization itself. That web server is configured with the private IP only. That is not with the public IP. But the request from outside is coming with the public IP. So that must be converted into the private IP. So for that here, this router will perform the network address translation. So NAT will be used here by the router and will convert into the internal network. And when the request is going out from the internal network, then this router, this NAT network address translation will convert this internal address to the public and will go out. So you will be asked the questions like this if you write any examination, especially in this course. I will be providing with one public IP address, and two network segments are there. One network segment is with 198 series and another is with 10 series. Now, what is the networking procedure that you will use so that I want to connect to a subnet of 20 computers, and from firewall and switch I want to connect to a subnet of 100 computers, a subnet of 1000 computers with the 10 series. So how this subnetting will be done with the help of network address translation will be asked in the examination. And also you are supposed to plan effectively the placement of the intrusion detection systems along with the proper subnetting. So DMZ configurations will not provide much, if any, protection against the internal network attack, such as email spoofing or network traffic analysis or packet sniffing was happened. So DMZ will only guard against the traffic which is coming from the outside. So from the internal, they cannot do anything. So for that only we require IDPSs, especially the hybrid IDPSs, which combines the system level and network level, so they can effectively identify both internal and external attacks. Designing the DMZ, the DMZs are designed for effective usage by the organizational requirement. By the end of this lecture, you will come to know the importance of the DMZ, where exactly this DMZ will be used, what is its advantage. So need to answer the following questions. What are the assets that need to be available to the public, and at what level of security they need to be that need to be clearly mentioned or clearly answered. At what cost of, or at what level of cost can an organization incur? That means whether the organization is in a position to afford this cost or not, because the DMZ placement is very costly. Okay, so can an organization live with the decrease in performance? If so, what design level and degradation can organization live with? Can with each design level, that design becomes more complicated. Therefore, one need to decide how much downtime an organization can afford, because with each increase in design complexity, downtime also increases. So that is the thing. These are the things. These are the 4 questions need to be answered first. Then we can go for the DMZ design. In DMZ design, we have 2 major categories. One is hardware level design, another is software level design. We'll see here the levels in DMZ design. Here level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. As the levels increasing, the complexity of the design also increases. In the level 1, the design is very simple. From internet directly connected to the firewall, DMZs always should be placed behind the firewall, like IDPSs. That means IDPSs will be between the firewall and DMZ, or between the firewall and internal network. Here a demilitarized zone was placed. This DMZ is connected to both the web server and the mail server. That means these 2 publicly accessible resources were connected to the DMZ switch. In case of level 2, 2 different switches were placed for web server and mail server. That means instead of placing one switch and attaching the 2 computers, 2 servers, one server is attached to one DMZ switch, another is to one DMZ switch. That means here why it is costly means you are supposed to purchase this switch, DMZ switch. The DMZ switches are complex, are costly. That means whenever you want to guard different public servers or public resources, then that many DMZ switches you are supposed to purchase. So that is the reason whenever this design level increases, the complexity also increases. In case of level 3, if you look at from the internet, service gateway firewall, from there again external firewalls will be there. This is a service gateway firewall. From this external firewalls, from external firewall DMZ, from DMZ internal firewall, and from internal firewall to the private network. That means first level filter, second level filter, DMZ, third level filter, and internal network. Between this external firewall and DMZ, you may also place the IDPS, which may be a NIDPS, network level intrusion detection service. At after this internal firewalls, you may place an IDPS, which is a host level IDPS, or it may be another internal network level IDPS. So so you can have a collaboration with these IDPSs and can identify the malicious traffic. So here the filtering level was increasing. Now here in the level 4, it is too much complex. It has become. It is just like a nested. Okay, firewall 1, firewall 2, firewall 3, firewall 4, firewall 5, firewall 6, and then private network. That means various heavy filtering will be happening here in the level 4. And one more thing, as the number of layers increases, the cost of efforting these firewalls and switches at the same time, IDPSs will also increase. So all these are hardware based, we can say. These are hardware based. Purchasing of hardware is also very difficult. So the reason we'll go for a virtual machine. A virtual machine is very useful for maintaining this kind of activities. That is the reason, if you look at many VMware workstation is there. In the VMware virtual machine, one version will be coming with the free as a free tool, that is VMware Player, and other things like ESX or other products are costly. There you are supposed to purchase. Why you are supposed to purchase? The reason is you, instead of purchasing the physical things like switches and these firewalls, you can configure with the virtual machine itself. The reason is, if you look at GoDaddy.com is there, which is a server which will be providing the host for many websites, which will be providing the web services for many websites. Many websites are launched on the GoDaddy server. That means how the GoDaddy server will maintain that many web servers? Is it possible to place an individual server for every host? It is very difficult. Instead, what they will do is they will maintain only one very huge server, big server. Provided with that big server, they will run a virtual machine. Okay, whenever you request for a website to launch, they will create an instance of the web server, and your web server will run. Right? This is the way they will create. That means this virtual machine will help, especially when you have a limited hardware resource, but you want to provide more services of the same type. Then virtual machine will be helpful to you. For example, you have developed a product, and you want to test on different hardwares or different operating systems. That means any application, if you develop or if you want to download, you will be having the configuration that okay, this will work on the Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows 2000, Windows 10, Red Hat, and this kind of thing that they will mention. Okay, this will happily work on these operating systems. But how they have tested it? How they have tested it? That means how the company has tested it. The company has tested not via installing the each and every operating system on individual computers, and they have not ported this product and tested. Instead, in one computer itself, a virtual machine is installed. All operating systems are installed in the virtual machine, and this product will be taken to each and every operating system within the one system itself, and they have tested. So that means it will help you to reduce the cost of purchasing additional hardware. That is what the hardware versus virtual DMZ. And the advantage of DMZ, virtual DMZ, is the security administrators, by sitting at home also they can monitor. They don't need to go to the server end. Then they need to go to the site to monitor the physical devices. They can sit at home and they can connect to the virtual machine software, which is running on the server at their office via virtual private network, and they can monitor any cases or any tickets that was raised, and they can answer to those tickets, or they can solve the tickets by sending the command from the console from his end. That is what the advantage of the virtual machines. I hope you got the advantage of the virtual machine and virtual machine based DMZs. Nowadays, majority of the security companies and security providers are making use of the virtual environment for maintaining the DMZs and firewalls. Here is the example. Here, so total hardwares are there: web zone, application zone, database zone. Hardwares are there. But here, if you look at in the virtual, there is a virtual machine like VMware ESX, VMware ESX, and VMware ESX, which is a proprietary and paid one, paid version. This is a paid one, right? And VMware workstation player or VMware player is there. That is a free that you can download and you can work on that. Okay, that will be workable for the single system, and very limited number of security features are available. Where in case of VMware ESX is a virtual machine where you will be having facility for the switches. Again, in that you can make a VM virtual machine. Only thing is once you create a virtual machine with the operating system set, firewall set, etc. Creating another virtual machine is a very easy task. Only thing is right click and make a copy, make a duplicate. Okay, make a duplicate and create another copy. And create another copy. That's all. You can create any number of copies like that just once you configure one system. So you may make note of this IP Fire. Okay, IP Fire is a firewall which is a virtual machine based firewall, and which is an open source and free firewall. If you want to configure a firewall on the virtual machine, you may use IP Fire, which will act as the router and also firewall. Okay, so like that. This is the virtual, and this is partial. Again, here also you will be having some switches and all. It is a partial. That is half of the thing was shifted to the virtual machine, and half of the thing was there on the physical. And here it is a partial collapsed DMZ. The partial collapsed DMZ without physical trusted zones. Okay, here this is sorry, it is not without. It is with physical trusted zones. Here there is a physical trusted zones are there, like a web zone, application zone, and here switches are there. From the switches, again this virtual machine VMware ESX, and here within the VMware ESX again switches, and again connected to the different virtual machines are there. And if you want to communicate with these virtual machines, again service console will be there. From the service console, LAN management and VMware virtual center will be there. To this VMware virtual center, you will be having a VPN router connected. The system administrator can sit at their home, and they can directly connect and can monitor any one of these virtual machines. This is the partial collapsed DMZ with a virtual separation of trust zones. So the trust zones were separated like this. Previously, those are at outside. Okay, now it was inbuilt in, that was taken into the virtual machine. So we have seen in the virtual VPN configuration that network network interface card that you select, you fix for the virtual machine. You can fix for example, in case of Oracle virtual machine, you can go for configuring of 4 NIC cards maximum. But VMware ESX will provide you many number of virtual machine, many number of NIC cards to configure. Okay, so this is a NIC card, network interface card. From this, again, web zone will be created, application zone and database zone. Again, from this, different VMs will be configured on this. Again, it is connected to the management LAN and VMware virtual center server. This is fully collapsed. There is no physical things, all virtual. Okay, everything was connected to the VMware virtual server only. From this, only a one firewall, general firewall was placed, which is also a very strong firewall. We cannot say it is a general firewall, it's a very strong firewall. From their product LAN, and again, this entire, whatever we have seen so far, like internet, intranet, there's application switch, database switch, everything was included in the into the virtual machine. So thereby you can avoid many physical devices. Many physical devices you can avoid. Cost can also be reduced. If you can spend, that is cost on purchasing one virtual machine, which will provide you both security and flexibility of creating any number of network interface cards, then it is an easy task for you to configure the DMZs. And in this configuration also, you should know how to perform the subnetting and what is the range of subnets and how many systems that may be possible to connect. This is an example DMZ creation in the D-Link router. If you have a D-Link router or Netgear router at your home, you may also connect to the D-Link router via web address like this 192.168.0.1 and log into the router configuration panel using admin password and choose the advanced options menu at the left hand side. There you will find firewall settings and DMZ. Then enable the DMZ menu. Then input IP addresses for the destination computer host. This host can be a remote desktop computer, web server, or any computer that needs to be able to access the internet. That means you are supposed to provide the IP address which system is going to access the internet via this router. Okay, that will be the DMZ zone that you can create. If you use dynamically assigned IP address, the next time the computer is restarted, the forwarding capability may lost and may not work. That is the reason you have to provide the static IP address there. That is the reason the examination point of view also, you are supposed to fix a subnet and subnet ranges statically. No DHCP will work here in case of DMZ creation. Okay, so if you have a router at your home, you connect it and you can see it. Once you set the DMZ zone and static network, you are supposed to restart the router or you are supposed to reconfigure the router and within 2 minutes it will be up and the DMZ zone will function. And if you want to disable it, same operation, connect to the web browser, use the IP address of the router and use the administrator and admin password. Then go to the firewall settings and disable the DMZ. So choose the save settings menu button and then close the router console. So thereby the DMZ will be configured in your D-Link router. So this is a task for you. After this lecture, you may go to the if you have a DMZ, if you have a D-Link router or any Netgear router or any other router, okay, you can go to that and you can find where the DMZ is there. What are the options available in the DMZ? So this is the end of this lecture related to the DMZ configurations.